Now I'm going to focus us. Okay. What happened here?
Oh, thank you. Let me just get a drink first. Okay. Yeah, jot down notes, right? Welcome, everybody, to live stream Quantum Gazing with Connie Shaw and Jim Wright. This is March 27th, 2021, and the title of our program is Group Bilocations. Our program today is going to include quantum gazing, a 10-minute meditation, some new healing codes, and a brief description of some group bilocations that took place in Colorado when we were still meeting in person, in public, pre-CV. Let's first start with a prayer. All of you might want to join in because we do love to thank the Lord and His helpers, the saints, the ascended masters, and the angelic hosts for all that they do for us. Beloved Lord, ascended masters, angelic host, the entire company of heaven, which helps us so loyally and faithfully, so continually with these gazing programs, as well as in between. We would like to ask that all those people today who have special needs, special requests, who are in pain or suffering, or whose loved ones need your help, receive your special compassion, mercy, love, and shifting energies. We thank you in advance for all that you're going to be doing for us, and there's no way that we could ever possibly thank you enough except by becoming the full beings that we are as embodiments of love. And remember why we were sent to earth, to love, serve God, and to love and serve God and all those we meet. Thank you and amen. Now then, this is a good time for you to get your notepads if you don't have them already, so that you can jot down notes. And it's also a good time for us to mention our disclaimer. Our disclaimer is that we are not medical doctors and do not diagnose or prescribe. We provide resources for educational, inspirational, and research purposes. This video is protected by the U.S. Constitution and is not intended to harm, bully, or to harass anyone at any time, but merely to inform. Now then, I would just like to say that since you have your notebooks ready and we've given our disclaimer, we are ready for Jim to do the gazing intro.
Before gazing, it's always advisable for you to make amends or forgive anyone who you feel has harmed you, either by something that they have done or something that they have not done. For you to think about and forgive God if you think the same is true of God. And especially for you to think about reasons why you might need to forgive yourself and take a moment to forgive yourself.
And the reason Jim mentioned that about God is that it's come to our attention many people have issues with God or Jesus or Sai Baba or their preceptor because they wanted a certain thing and it wasn't the right time or perhaps the right thing to give them, and so they've held a grudge or a grievance against their preceptor or God.
So now if you would please place your feet flat on the floor, unless you're sitting cross-legged on the floor. Uncross your legs, obviously. Place your hands face up in a receptive position, down on your legs, down on your knees. And I'm going to make an adjustment here, if you'll just forgive me for a moment. Let's see if I can do something here, if we can make this go. Having a little technical issue. Let's see what we can do. Okay. I'm trying to get the captioning to work for us, and I'm not sure that it is working the way we'd like it to work, and if it's not going properly,
Then
we'll just forget it, and yeah, okay. Well, you have your feet on on the floor, you have your hands in a face-up position. We can spend a little time thinking about things that we would like for our loved ones or for ourselves, things we would like to have come into our lives or leave our lives or their lives. Get them clearly in your mind. They can have to do with anything at all. They can have to do with your selfless service activities. They can have to do with your leadership roles, your spiritual life and your life purpose, your emotions, how sensitive you are emotionally, or what emotions you seem to be stuck on. They can have to do with your relationships with anyone in your life, with family members, with friends, with co-workers, with your boss. And of course, they can have to do with your health and health issues. Anything having to do with your body or your mind. So take a moment and think about those things that you'd like to have come into your lives for the good or leave your lives that are troublesome, and get them clearly in your minds. Now, when you're gazing with Connie,
And Jim, because we're both doing gazing.
you don't need to stare or try to transfer any energy back and forth. You can just look at us with a soft, almost unfocused gaze. And at the same time, let your mind go blank. Let all of your thinking stop. Let your thoughts disappear. Let your mind empty. And if during gazing you notice that those thoughts have started again, it's not a huge problem. Just notice that and gently let your thinking stop again and let those thoughts go. Now, we always precede gazing with an exercise, a visualization in which we are breathing and we're imagining our consciousness breathing down into our heart center, which is located in the middle of our chests. And we notice the point in time at which the end of our out-breath occurs. And usually there's a special feeling that's unique to us of feeling inside at that point at which we end that out-breath. And that's a point at which we're connecting with all that is. And we're making a special connection with anyone that we have clearly and closely in mind. And sometimes they'll actually feel something, maybe a little shiver or shudder at the same time we're ending our out-breath and noticing that feeling. So we're going to do this 3 times. Let's do it together. Breathe in deeply. Now, big out breath as we imagine our consciousness dropping down into our heart center. We notice that feeling in our heart at the end of the out breath. Now let's breathe in deeply. Breathe our consciousness down into our heart center, noticing that feeling in our heart at the end of the out breath when we're connecting with all that is. Now one more time. Deep breath in. Breathe our consciousness down into our heart center, connecting with everything, with all that is, and with those special people we have in mind. Now imagine your consciousness going out into the universe, connecting with your idea of the quantum field of love. Feel that enveloping warmth and caring and compassion as you're connected with the quantum field of love, which reaches every corner of your being and every corner of every person who is aware. And now you can come back into the room, back into your bodies. If you have photos of loved ones, you may have laid them out on the floor in front of you, or if you'd like to hold them up towards the screen, towards us, that would be fine. Whatever works for you. If you do have some photos that you'd like to have surrogacy in gazing, that's a wonderful service that you can do. And so we're going to begin gazing right now. And Connie and I will leave the screen, so don't worry, we will be back for the next part.
Well, we'll leave the screen. What he means is
at the end of gazing. I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself.
During meditation,
Thank
but
you.
we
I
can't
got ahead
do
of
gazing
myself.
unless we're on the screen.
Duh.
Right. So we're back
Duh.
on script now.
Yes,
and,
we are.
Now we're beginning gazing.
Now we're beginning gazing.
Thank you. And now Jim is going to mention a few things before we start meditating, and we'll tell you why we meditate directly after gazing.
So the masters have been working with you since you came into the room to do gazing with us, and perhaps they've been with you all day so far, working with you. And some people have found that they begin working on with you even earlier than that. But they have told Connie that they'd like to continue intensively working with all of us for about another 10 minutes while we meditate. If you're not a meditator, it's not a problem. Don't worry about that. But it would be good if you would close your eyes and simply enjoy the silence while we're having this brief period of further intensive work by the masters. So, as I said earlier, at the incorrect time, we are going to leave the screen now, and we will start meditating all together right now.
With 3 ohms.
Om. Om. Om.
will go. That means get that. Ready? Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. Welcome back. And while you're coming back into the room, pardon me, I'd like to mention that actually Jim and I are very joyful, playful people. We like to have fun. We like to just stay in a very high vibrational state because we know that when we do that, miracles happen and we're connected with God. So we're not being trivial or frivolous or what they call light-minded. We're just being happy. We're choosing to be happy. That's the only thing that God asks of his people. I only want one thing from you, and that is to be happy. So while you're coming back to consciousness and coming back into the room, we'd like to show you a funny t-shirt that we recently saw. So, my doctor asked if anyone in my family suffers from mental illness. I said, no, we all seem to enjoy it. I thought that was hilarious. Now then, presumably all of you are back now, and you might want to have your notepads ready in case you would like to jot down some of the things we're going to cover. Do you ever remember going to other places when you were asleep to discover things that you could never know with your everyday conscious mind? Scientists tell us that everybody goes out of their body at night during sleep, and that most people don't remember those trips. And they can go to other countries and even to other planets. So as you know, there have been lots and lots of studies on sleep, on dreams, on bilocations, and so on. So let's start our discussion of today's topic of bilocation by taking a look at the chart, which gives 3 definitions of bilocation. First of all, the spiritual ability to travel to other locations in the subtle body while awake or asleep, or is being seen in 2 or more places at once, or leaving the physical body in one place, for example, your chair or your bed, while going on a mission, such as for healing, rescue, or surveillance somewhere else. And I do believe that this is somewhat different from remote viewing. All right. I know some of you would like to take notes, and you can freeze or pause the picture after this is over and can come back. I would also like to say that some of you are not aware that if you miss live streaming gazing, we put it up immediately, and therefore you can do gazing as often as you like with this video or our other 4 videos on quantum gazing. You go to YouTube and type in the space bar Quantum Jim 45, Quantum Jim 45, and you'll see the videos that we've made in live streaming. I believe this is the 5th, and then our new series on Fireside Moments with Connie Shaw and Fireside Moments with Connie Shaw and Jim Wright. We do have some blind people that listen, and we have people that would like to listen to Fireside Moments elsewhere rather than in their customary place. Now then, I think that we'll remove the bilocation explanation. Good. over the past 10 years since we've been doing quantum gazing, Jim and I have been told by people whom we've never met, and we've never met in person in this lifetime, most of you who are watching. And these people have told us that we've bilocated to their countries. We've visited them in their homes, offices, hospitals, or local areas, and that we've been instruments for their healing as surrogates, encouraging them or giving them information. Now, although I have a vivid recollection of one of these experiences, and I verified it with the two people that I bilocated to or visited in their home 50 miles away, I can't recall any other bilocations. I believe them when they tell us that we have essentially parachuted into their homes or offices or hospitals and what the effect was. All right, and of course God is the doer, and God just uses us and you for whatever mission he has in mind. And most of us are not aware that we're being used in that way. So that's why we're talking about this today. Some of you are saying, I just have stopped all my service activities since the CV. Or I feel I'm not doing enough for humanity. Or I never have any supernatural experiences like you do. Yes, you do. But your particular framework, the mesh of the subtle body, upon which the physical body is hung, so to speak, the scaffolding, that in connection with your endocrine system and your chakras and all of the aspects that make up what you think of as yourself, those are not yet finely enough tuned to be able to experience all of the things that are around you, mostly invisible, trying to get your attention or work with you, heal you, or bless you in one way or another. But we're all being accelerated very rapidly right now to bring in the golden age of peace and plenty. So we thought that you would find it very interesting to hear about 4 group bilocations that happened when we were doing in-person gazings at a local library. Now, first of all, I would just like to say that over the years, attendees at gazing, both in-person gazings and workshops and also our online Skype gazings, have reported that they themselves have been invited to take a 10 or 15-minute trip in their subtle body in the company of Sai Baba, Jesus, Mother Mary, in order to take part in healing someone in another country. In other words, the masters need a physical human being in this so-called 3D reality in order to send their energies through that person or that person's subtle body and into the physical human in another country that desperately needs help because they're in pain or suffering or injured. Now then, since those etheric trips only took a few seconds and then they stayed where they were while gazing was happening for 10 or 15 minutes, the people who did the bilocation in the company of Sai Baba, Jesus, or Mary were then asked to share their experiences with the group after meditation finished. Now then, they might have been taken to another country such as Spain or India, China, or Russia to share their experience with the group or to give a message, as I just said. Now, to be clear, these people left their physical body in their seat, and then they went off in their spirit body and then returned, and nobody could tell the difference. They didn't act strangely or have an odd look on their face. It looked like everybody was sitting there quietly meditating with their eyes closed. Some of them told us that they even asked Jesus, Mary, or Sai Baba, well, wouldn't it be a bit rude or impolite if we just go off while Connie and Jim are doing gazing? And they just laughed and said, they'll never know. You'll look the same. We just want your spirit body. It will look like you're meditating. So we thought that was very funny. So now we want to emphasize you are spirit. You're not your physical body. Everything that can be seen is not you. Everything about you that cannot be seen is who you truly are, Atma or Holy Spirit. All right. And this physical body, as we know, only appears in the world of form for a limited time, maybe up to 80, 90, 100 years. And that's going to be changing soon, where we'll be living much longer lives with good mental and physical health. And we'll talk about that another time. Now, in recent years, as we said, in our in-person workshops, a totally new phenomenon has taken place 4 times that we know of, but it could have taken place more than that. And we call them group bilocations, and we've had to create names for the various phenomena, which I think are maybe over 50 different phenomena that have occurred in gazing. And we've talked about this many times and will again in the future. The way that we know this happened is that one of our event staff members, Lee Rivers, is a highly gifted seer or clairvoyant. She has usually sat at the back of the room behind the 50 to 60 or 70 attendees in our live gazings and has been shown a vivid scene playing out above the heads of the entire group, including Jim and me and the whole staff, the event staff, just like a moving picture where each of us is being taken en masse as a group to another time and place. The first time we heard this, we were astonished, although by then many, many people had told us that either I was bilocating to them in their country or Jim. And Jim and I were bilocating around Colorado together, and we were being seen in various places. And people would thank us profusely, and we would say, well, that's just how God uses our bodies. We have no recollection of that, and all thanks is due to God, not to us. We hardly have a clue. We just show up and things happen. God does miracles and healings, and oftentimes we're the last to know, but we're very willing participants in all of this. Now, the first group bilocation that happened, we call the hospital scene. Now then, Lee Rivers told us that in this particular scene, playing like a film above the heads of the entire group, we were all in like a Civil War hospital from maybe 100 years ago, around 1910, 1920. And we were all lying in bed as if we were in a big hospital dormitory with those white metal headboards for the bed. And we were all patients with the bedspreads tucked under our chins. There were sheets and pillowcases that were light powder blue, topped with big puffy blue comforters or bedspreads or duvets. And then nurses in white hats, uniforms, and aprons were lovingly attending each one of us. The issue that was being healed for the entire group was birth trauma. Most of us have had birth trauma, either due to the fact that our mother was delivering us as a first-time baby for her. She had no experience and she was frightened, or any number of reasons that you can well imagine, or what was going on in the family or the country, maybe war, or maybe earth changes, who knows. So our birth trauma, our collective birth trauma and individual birth trauma was being healed in the scene above our heads, while in actuality, we were each totally unaware of that scene as we sat in rows of chairs in the library meeting room. Now, what we were doing was either meditating or watching videos or otherwise engaged, while our spirit bodies were transported somewhere else together and we were being worked on. When your spirit body is being worked on, then your physical body and your mental body also get the benefit. So God is using most of us, most of the time, that is light workers, to help with the enormous needs on the planet right now where we have so much suffering.
The second group bilocation healing scene that took place at another workshop at the library, we refer to it as the healing pool bilocation. As all of us sat in the meeting room, We were blissfully unaware of an unfolding scene above us, and we were transported to a grassy hillock, and this we're talking about 40, 50, 60 people that were in the meeting room. We were transported to that grassy hillock that could have been in Ireland, for example, seemed like that, and there were shallow healing pools. And we each stepped into the healing pools one by one to receive a healing and a balancing.
And as I recall, she said they were stepped pools or tiered so that we would go from one to another healing pool.
Now, the third group bilocation took place in a large white marble Middle Eastern temple. And in this scene, the entire group of us were dressed in white robes, and we were initiated by masters who took us along a hallway to a special initiation chamber. Once again, no one in the meeting room realized that we'd been initiated as we sat in our chairs meditating or watching videos.
Now, the next example was really mind-blowing, as if this isn't, since it actually involved our entire audience group in a healing mission of mercy that was extremely effective in a very short period of time. I know that this stretches everybody's credulity, but it's our job to let you know what is happening with us and with you and with various other individuals that come and go in this process, because we're all being up-leveled and upgraded to do higher and finer work with and for the Lord in his worldwide mission of uplift at this time. Now, as I said, we were totally unaware of the fact that we were giving vital help out of state. In fact, it was in St. Louis where this was most needed. We call this the St. Louis Prayer Vigil. So one of the most touching things is that when we heard about this, we were all transported to a situation which had been recently in worldwide news because of a policeman who had shot a black youth that caused a national and a local uproar. Our group, according to Lee Rivers, our psychic, was specifically used by God and the angels and the masters to heal on the spot, in the moment, the mostly African American young adult attendees at an outdoor evening candlelight prayer vigil after the shooting of the black youth. Naturally, the African American community was devastated. The scores of prayer vigil attendees were wearing white clothing, which stood out in the dark, and they were holding lighted candles in white cardboard candle holders to catch the drippings. Now, the soft yellow candlelight illuminated their tragic, upturned faces. They looked very sad, like forlorn angels in a sea of white clothing, as they stood close together that dark night. As you can imagine, the atmosphere was one of abject grief, loss, and despair. They seemed to be in a dazed shock. We can all understand that. Lee Rivers said that each one of us in the Colorado Gazing Group was positioned so that we were hovering about a foot off of the ground, so that each of us was directly in front of one of the St. Louis people, looking deeply into their eyes in a most loving, nurturing way. We were beaming and radiating compassionate energy directly into them, smiling as we did so, even though they couldn't see us and we didn't even know what was happening. Within 10 minutes, the downturned mouths of the St. Louis prayer vigil attendees inexplicably turned up into smiles, and their eyes began to shine. They entered into a blissful state, which showed on their faces as if they felt loved and comforted, and they deeply knew in their hearts that they were loved by God. The Lord and the Masters and the angels hovered all around them, and there were blessings everywhere. You know, it's as blessed to give as to receive, and we all know the feeling of our hearts swelling when we help someone who's suffering or in need. Now, it's an interesting thought as to whether anybody felt an especial heart opening while we were being bilocated to do that selfless service, even though we didn't know it was happening. So in gazing, there's no time or space. And we would just like to show you again the 4 group bilocations in Colorado, as you can see there, were the hospital scene for birth trauma, the healing pools, and the Middle Eastern temple initiation, and the St. Louis prayer vigil, group-to-group healing. Now, when these things would happen, and Lee and others would just see so much going on in the room from before we entered and before the masters entered. Some people would come early on the event staff to clear the room and to pray. So Lee Rivers would immediately return home after the in-person library gazings and would record notes of what she'd seen, in addition to noting which angels, archangels, and the 7 mighty archangels are here every time, along with the other angels, and which ascended masters or saints had been present in the room, along with Jesus, Mary, and Sai Baba, who have always been here for nearly 11 years, thousands of times. She would read her notes to me either that night or the next morning, and we'd discuss our impressions of the session, which usually included gazing, a 10-minute meditation, as now, some group singing, individual matrix energetics for every person there, and some partner activities and short videos. And each program lasted about 2.5 hours. If you haven't heard of Matrix Energetics, we would have people line up who wanted to experience Matrix, and we would have a team of about 4 people trained in Matrix, and we would each tap that person on their forehead, and they would keel over backwards blissfully into the arms of a catcher onto a nice comfortable mat and stay there for about 5 minutes while the Lord and the Masters would heal them further. Now, Lee was usually shocked to see the group bilocation scenes and sometimes future events unfolding before her eyes. Those things are happening now. We haven't met in 15 months because of the CV. So we have not had a chance to tell the people that have attended our in-person events what happened. She usually needed to process her own visions and experiences for hours or even for days afterwards. And many of us have experienced that we have been in an altered state for hours or days afterwards, which is a good thing. Bliss feels very nice. She asked me not to share the visions, though, at the time, and we felt that since some of you who are attending now and watching this will be hearing for the first time what you were participating in without even realizing it. So on occasion, Lee would share her visions with a few other clairvoyant attendees who would add to her information as far as what other masters they had seen mutually or other details they had noted. One time, someone named Brody came to one of our sessions and he said, "Hey, who are all those big dudes with the bird wings on their backs standing all around the room?" And I said, "Oh, you're seeing them?" He said, "Yes, they're angels along every wall and at the doors and the windows." And Or are they? Are they birds? Are they people with bird wings? What are they? I said, well, the big ones are the seven mighty archangels, and the smaller ones are the protective angels that are there every time. And I said, it's better not to refer to them as dudes because they really are quite noble. They're very mighty and powerful and loving and healing. They love us very much, and they deserve not only our respect, but they deserve our reverence. And sometimes people that see them, that see through the veil, fall on their knees in awe. And the seven mighty archangels have rainbow colors shooting out of their wings, and they absolutely love and adore God and all of creation, all of us, all beings, animals, plants, everything. So, for the most part, I wanted to say, too, that the masters would not allow me to see the angels and masters after the first two times. Because in the past, I became so enamored of them. I loved them so much. And when they appeared and they were right there in front of us, would stop teaching. And I would just stare lovingly at them. And if they were up near the ceiling, I would just be looking up there, and everybody would be waiting for the next sentence. Or I would just be looking over in another corner of the room, totally forgetting where I was and what I was supposed to say. Now, I'm normally not an airhead. I'm very much a detail-oriented person. But I have to admit, my love for the Lord and his helpers is so great that my mind stops, and I just feel deeply penetrated with divine love. So they said, you can't do that anymore. And one thing I was observing is that as I was gazing, looking at the audience, I would see each person's past lives as if there were costumed beings standing in front of them, one after the other. And I could see this person had been a nun, or a king, or an emperor, or a housewife, or a school teacher. And it was very fascinating. So I was looking at each person like this, rather than just looking straight ahead and doing gazing. So they realized that I was hopeless in my love for them, and I was just going to have to stand still, do the job, and then carry on with teaching the workshop. Now then, we have a few statements about miracles from A Course in Miracles, which we'd like to share. We discovered A Course in Miracles on New Year's Eve, 1978, and we knew immediately that the path of Advaita, or non-duality, was for us, and we absolutely love everything in the 3 volumes in the Course in Miracles, and we've always loved Jesus. I have, especially since I was 3 years old, and heard the Om sound in my head and felt that I was surrounded by angels and masters, and that my simple little job was just to obey God and to follow directions and do the best I could to be a compassionate person for other people and towards animals.
So chapter 1 of A Course in Miracles lists a quite lengthy list of miracle principles. So in that chapter 1, miracle principle number 40 says, the miracle acknowledges that everyone is your brother and mine. It is a way of perceiving the universal mark of God.
Miracle principle number 45 says, a miracle is never lost. It may touch many people you've not even met and produce undreamed of changes in situations of which you're not even aware. Remember that St. Louis group bilocation? Who knows what came of that? But I feel that we were at least as blessed as those people, having had the opportunity to participate in it, even though we didn't know it. Life is so mysterious and exciting and fun and ever unfolding into new mysteries.
And then miracle principle number 47 says, the miracle is a learning device that lessens the need for time. It establishes an out-of-pattern time interval, not under the usual laws of time. In this sense, The miracle is timeless.
So remember, no time or space, we can transcend anything with God's grace.
Now, in addition to the gift of bilocation, some of the gazing attendees have seen departed loved ones during gazing. Some have seen their departed pets, such as horses or dogs, who came in groups of animals to stand next to their former owners in order to briefly reunite. There is no death, only the dropping of the body to return to a higher octave of light between lifetimes.
I'd also like to mention, too, for people that do the sacred flame invocations or who do decrees, that Lee Rivers, one of our psychic people, has oftentimes seen gigantic sacred flames hovering about 3 feet off the floor at gazing. And they might be 3-4 feet tall, very vivid, like actual flames from a fireplace, for example. Some have been peach colored, some have been white, some have been blue or pink. The Holy Spirit alive in the room, within each of us and all around us. Now then, before we close, I'd like to mention some healing code numbers that are very pertinent in these chaotic times. We have a chart for this, and we can come back to this section after you see our last few minutes. Pause the screen and take notes on them. But first of all, I'd like to make a few comments. Star of Bethlehem for shock and trauma. Regardless of whether the shock occurred when you were in utero, before you were even born, all the way up till now. And most of us have had many shocks in this lifetime. We repress them, suppress them, and soldier on bravely. And yet, at the same time, we can be quite volatile and easily triggered. So, Star of Bethlehem can be written anywhere on your body. Most people write it in a ballpoint pen, not a Sharpie, on their foot or their calf or their thigh or abdomen, depending upon how hairy their body is or the quality of their skin in each of those areas, whether it's tender or a little thicker. Then Rescue Remedy for shock, loss, and accident, 476362. It's a good idea to carry Rescue Remedy with you if you have a car, in your glove box or in a purse, for example, so that you can take it if anything shocking happens. Now, it's not untoward to say that these days it's such an exciting time to be on the planet. All right, and now for courage. 1121222. So there's a space after 11 space, 21 space, 222. Then feelings of betrayal. 53 space, 14 space, 80853. Many people are feeling these issues these days because of the chaos on the planet, and it does seem confusing, and sometimes it seems as if no one knows what's going on. But that's not true. God has a plan. He just hasn't told us. Everything is unfolding exactly as it should do. Then now for positive outlook, the ability to have fun, to access joy. That's very important to keep our vibrational frequencies high. 25 space, 67 space, 993. All right. Now, various gifts of the Spirit continue to be given to each of us who is involved with quantum gazing. We like to thank the Lord and the Masters before and after the sessions for the countless ways in which they show their abundant love, compassion, and encouragement for each one of us. You can ask for their help anytime, and you can request that they come and bless you each time you view one of the gazing videos. As soon as we finish this, it will go up, and you'll have access to it again. I ask them, the Masters, to help me see my mistakes more quickly and to increase my capacity to give and receive love. You might ask them for any number of things. You might ask them for the gifts of the Spirit, to be able to be a more useful, clear, pure instrument for God and the Masters in these times. Whatever you want to ask for is not my business, and we're all at different levels of awareness, and experience. So we have quite a diverse audience. At this time, we'd like to give our profound appreciation to our beloved Lord and to all of the ascended masters, saints, and the entire angelic host for allowing us to participate in this interdimensional spiritual science of quantum gazing, and for the thousands of blessings and healings they've so generously and liberally poured out upon humanity. In fact, parenthetically, I'd like to say that as of 2 years ago, well over 45,000 people have been blessed, healed, and shifted in gazing, whether in person or on Skype. Now it's much more than that. We've lost count, but we're tremendously grateful for the continued outpouring. Now the Lord and the Masters have shortened storms, they've prevented accidents, they've lessened tidal waves, they've doused forest fires, comforted wounded armies, lost children, and healed people of every conceivable mental and physical illness and torment. May each of you receive the help, the insights, the inspiration, blessings, and healing that you have desired today, and may you remember God continually and stay connected to Him in your heart. Also, may you be inspired to begin or to expand your selfless service to the poor, the homeless, the hungry, and the lonely. If you know anybody that goes to bed hungry each night, you might decide that you and your family or friends would like to bring them food for lunch or dinner 4 or 5 days a week, so that they're not crying alone, too ashamed to ask for help, or not knowing where to go to get more food just to sustain themselves. Please do consider that. And now, as we know, each of us is an embodiment of love. Your special gifts, your gifts of the Spirit, your skill sets are vitally needed now. You'll be directed on inner levels as to best how to help, to know how to help, to be led. Nobody's too old or too young or too infirm to offer their selfless service to somebody in need. God bless each and every one of you, and thank you for blessing our lives and the lives of the suffering, whom you're feeding, visiting, counseling, and comforting. And I would like to say that we have been asked by the Lord that those who are watching and participating in this jot down their notes while they're fresh in your minds and send them to your gazing coordinator, or email them to us at info at connieshaw.com, CONNIESHAW.com. We have been urged to take very good notes and keep good records because, as the Lord told us, these are like biblical times. When the apostles, and you know there weren't just 12, there were probably 500 in the major first in-group, and then countless ones after that, they kept in their minds and hearts the memory of what was happening. We're keeping in our minds and hearts during these precious moments, and in our notes, the details of the gifts and the healing and the mercy and the insights that were being given, so that people in the future, and we're told generations from now, people are going to be reading your reports of what is happening over these months and years. It's vital that they understand that God hasn't stopped doing miracles. He is a miracle. We're all miracles. We're all created in His image. And miracles will be flowing out and about and through and above and beyond and around all of us shortly, if not for those who have already been participating in this. So once again, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Masters and Angels. And thank you to all of you, dear souls. God bless you.